Dr. Harold Lane has been a longtime friend of my family. When I got married, he and my dad, Dr. Paul Cito, officiated the wedding. In fact, when I was 14 years old, Dr. Lane baptized me and my younger sister Christine at Pasadena First Baptist Church, where he served as senior pastor for 17 years. He called the congregation a full-spectrum church because of the rich diversity of people. Since his retirement from the church, Harold Lane has been serving as chaplain at the Royal Oak Manor. In this community of senior citizens, conversations often include fond memories of childhood. June 4th is an important date in world history. On June 4th, 1989, the Student Democratic Movement occurred at the Tiananmen Square in Beijing, China. The student movement changed the national life of China. On June 4th, 1929, some 60 years earlier, God brought Harold Lane into the world through parents James and Dora Lane in Detroit, Michigan. In spite of difficult years during the Depression in the 1930s, Hal enjoyed a happy and healthy childhood due to his faithful and hard-working parents.
I was very fortunate as a child, being born to Christian parents. You know, that's a real blessing to get a good start in life. My parents taught me to love the Lord Jesus, and it was of great interest to me that my father had not yet been immersed. He had come from a different background, and so both my father and myself were baptized on a New Year's Eve in Detroit, Michigan, in a small little Baptist church. I'll never forget it, being baptized with my dad.
As a young man, Hal always looked ahead into the future with a definite goal. He strongly believed that God has a wonderful plan for his life. God gave him a beautiful and talented wife, Dolores, and together they built a great team in the worldwide gospel ministry for the Lord Jesus Christ.
Even before he ever even knew I existed, because I used to carry his picture around and I would say, tell people, this is my boyfriend, and he didn't know anything about it. But one day, the Lord, I guess, worked in his life because I was attending a party for the young people, and I went with another boy. I was supposed to be with him, but he disappeared from the group. I don't know what happened to him, and there was Hal. He said to me, "Are you by yourself?" And I said, "Well, I came with somebody, but he's gone." And he said, "Would you mind if I took you home?" I said, "No, not at all. Why don't you?" That would be a nice thing to do. And so from that time on, we became great friends.
Hal received his education from Highland Park City College in Michigan and Judson College in Illinois. College life was quite romantic.
Following education, one of the happy things for me was accepting the possibility of becoming a husband. Oh, that was terrifying to think of at first, but I had the most wonderful young lady that was the queen of my heart, and we were married in 1951 in December, and following that then graduation from college, took the first pastorate, which was a small church in west central Illinois, First Baptist Church of Bushnell, Illinois. I still have the longest tenure for that little church, which now is probably 125 years old. And following that, then I moved to another pastorate at First Baptist Church of Rantoul. Rantoul in those days was the site of Chanute Air Force Base. We had military personnel in our congregation ranging from brigadier general all the way down to airman basic, which is about as low as you can get in the Air Force in those days. And it was from there that I moved to Jerseyville, Illinois, where I served the church there, First Baptist Church of Jerseyville, which is the county seat of Jersey County, and had a wonderful ministry there as well.
There was much joy in this young family. By the grace of God, Hal proved to be a loving husband and caring father to their 2 children, Jim and Nancy. Nancy was born in this small hospital in Jerseyville. Nancy and Jim really enjoyed a happy life here at this quaint and loving church community. Even today, Nancy and Jim have fond memories of their father, who served so effectively at the church.
He was always there to help me, take me to swim classes, and my brother as well. He made sure that we got to church every morning. He woke us up every morning to get to school. When I was in high school, although it was out of his way, he took me to school every morning.
There's always the baseball, there's always the golf, there's always just the 2 of us. We get together, share moments, but always a hug, no matter how many miles apart we are when we see each other. And it comes down to love, and for that I'm grateful. I could have asked for no better man to raise me.
In 2005, Dr. Lane returned to Jerseyville to preach at the First Baptist Church and met up with many old friends. Tom and Janet are 2 of the Lane's dearest friends and have been supporters for many years.
He just had that kind of personality that he drew people in, you know. He never went down the street without speaking to everybody. And so everyone knew him. And he was very active in everything in Jerseyville, like the Rotary Club, and so everyone knew him. And people started coming. He started baptizing people, and this church was just growing. He could joke with people, you know. Sometimes people think religion has to be so, you know, straight, and you don't have fun, but he showed everybody that yes, we have fun, we can have a good time, and we can still worship the Lord. In 4 years' time, just 4, he brought so many people into the church that the church could not hold everybody. And so we built the educational building, and he just really worked hard, and he had a lot of energy, and so did Dee, his wife. And with the 2 of them and their wonderful personalities, we just grew.
After 4 years of fruitful ministry in Jerseyville from 1960 to 1964, during which time a major educational building project was completed, Hal was called by God to Chicago to serve as the senior pastor of Irving Park Church. Here, this young family had to face the various challenges of a cosmopolitan city.
When we were here, we bought the property over here, as I told you out front, and a bomb was thrown through this window. Didn't explode, but it broke the window, and they were very angry. But the only thing we could do was to utilize that for the glory of God and say He protected us, He kept us from all danger, and we were safe, even though this didn't cause us much trouble, just the broken window, and we were glad for that.
A busy life never hindered Hal's inquisitive mind. His graduate studies at Northern Theological Seminary, University of Chicago Divinity School, Pacific School of Religion, and later at Oxford University in England prepared and enriched him to be a great teacher.
This is the Chicago Divinity School, where I went to school doing my doctoral work here. I was pastor at the Irving Park Church and would drive about every day. While I was here, there were some very fine theologians that were in residence. Dr. Sittler, outstanding person, Martin Marty, Dr. Gunn, Paul Tillich taught here. We had some tremendous professors, and back in those days, of course, it was a different kind of a scene than it is now. But thankfully, I finished the work here.
After completing his doctoral studies in Chicago, Hal was led by God to the Indianapolis First Baptist Church. As a senior pastor, he placed strong emphasis on spiritual growth for the entire congregation. As a result, members of this growing church were motivated to reach out into the community with a variety of programs for the education and benefit of thousands of people.
This church was a strong place for winning people for Christ in those days. It was not unusual to have about 100 people unite with the church each year, and sometimes more. A number of baptisms. This area has many, many young couples. It is truly a suburban church, and it is the largest church for American Baptists here in Indiana. The athletic program here is something fantastic. I can remember when I was pastor, we had as many as 5,000 people here on occasion. Children, parents, the whole thing. It was a fabulous thing, and I understand it is still going very strong. They have about 3,000, I think, now, but still a great outreach for the community.
That we have pictures of from 1822 go up here and across
Okay.
and get deeper, and in these are the second run like Randy.
Yes, yes. Here's Randy Farrar.
Oh, Randy Farrar.
He was our minister of
Oh, my
visitation and
goodness.
music. Yeah, he was there.
I was an ordained minister, but as a young pastor, I knew that I needed someone to teach me more about how to be a minister. Dr. Lane gave me many opportunities to serve Christ and to learn how to serve effectively. And once he retired from full-time pastoral ministry, I have been called into a ministry where I have had opportunity to use virtually all of the things that in the 25 years of learning from him.
I think this church has so many wonderful issues of history, some absolutely astounding ministries in the past, and certainly in my time it was a great place to be. So I'm happy to return and to be here in this office, which is where I happen to be. This happens to be the desk that was here when I was here way back in 74 through 78. Great place. Glad I was here.
Later, during his pastorate at Pasadena First Baptist Church, Dr. Lane created a full-spectrum congregation, which also reached out into the community with a number of influential programs.
I just want to express my appreciation to all of the things that Harold Lane has done for our church. His ministry over his 16 years was just marvelous.
He speaks to people so directly that it's really very interesting to be with him. And of course we became friends almost immediately. And when we retired, this seemed to be the best place for us. We were more comfortable in this church than any other.
And part of what turned us into becoming members of this church was the love. And both Helen and I came from different denominational backgrounds. Helen was from the Chinese background and myself from the Catholic background, and we decided to worship together at a church, and this is our home. And Dr. Lane has been a wonderful pastor to us.
He again stressed theological education for training young leaders. He was invited to teach at Fuller Theological Seminary. His students love him dearly and treasure him as a highly respected educator.
I've learned that it is so very important to study and to prepare oneself. And so I used various forms of background as well as the educational background through the media. I had the opportunity of being a guest speaker on the National Layman's Hour by radio. I had the possibility of sponsoring my own television program that is being received and has been received through San Francisco area.
People with purpose. Personal friends and strangers you meet on the street. Many among you are people with purpose. Today you will meet people who have experienced a change of heart and mind and whose lives now have meaning. This series of telecasts will led by Dr. Harold Lane, pastor of the First Baptist Church of Menlo Park, California, will seek to probe the meaning and reality which can be directional for everyone.
Let me ask you, as one minister to another now, nobody watching too closely, have you ever felt like quitting, Norman?
Well, Harold, I sure have. There have been many times I've said to myself, how in the world did I ever get into this? And I'm not doing any good at it and so forth. But fortunately, I've got a positive thinking wife who bucks me up. And then I try to practice my own principles, and I go back and I ask the Lord, what in the world's wrong with me? Mm-hmm. And he'll tell me.
In no uncertain terms.
In no uncertain terms. Yeah.
Help you get it put together. Yeah. I suppose we've all felt that way. And but the power to continue is that infilling of God and the Spirit that really makes it all worthwhile, I'm sure.
Somebody, I think it was Rosalind Russell. Now, I don't know how she ever thought this up, but she's a good person, you know. She said the quitter never wins and the winner never quits. And, you know, that's been my philosophy all along. With God's help, never quit. Stick with it.
Stay in there. Stick-to-itiveness, as they say.
Hang in there.
However, the greatest strength that God gave Hal is his caring heart in all his pastorates, even in the interim positions. He has always been totally committed to the Lord's ministry and has given his all to the people.
I'm standing in front of the Calvary Baptist Church here in Salem, Oregon. Salem is the capital of the state of Oregon. It was my privilege to be the interim pastor here in 1996-97. We had a great time here, an opportunity to serve the Lord in the capital of the state of Oregon. We saw many people find Christ. We had the opportunity to baptize a number of people here and have some very deep, close relationships.
The most memorable thing about Pastor Hal and Dee is their upbeat spirit, and that it seems like every time that he was preaching, he had us rejoicing and laughing, and we would all go away uplifted. We have really come to love them both. She was also a very excellent helper and stood by and was great in her ministry with him too.
I served as the interim pastor here, First Baptist Church of Portland, Oregon, and enjoyed very much the opportunity to be a part of the community. I want to say about this church that one of its great ministries is the work that it does with the indigent. There are many, many people who are without homes, who are hungry, and this church feeds maybe 100 to 1,000 every week during the year, and it's a tremendous ministry.
That he not only was a good pastor and able to minister from the pulpit, but he was a leader. He was a leader. At that time, First Baptist Church had been a couple of years or so without a senior pastor. And having somebody come in of his stature and understanding people as he did was a great credit to our congregation. Not only did he work with the people, but he worked well with the staff.
While Dr. Lane was here, within a 6-month period, 14 people were added to the membership of First Baptist Church, 7 of them by adult baptism. His preaching was just what we needed, and I can remember his stewardship messages were very good.
I want to say that I have appreciated also Hal's spirituality. This man is dedicated to his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and he's kind of a person and pastor who can go into a church and get people to see a vision of where that church should go without haranguing, without having to get into politics. He is smooth as silk in that. And I do believe that's a God-given gift.
When Hal was here, he was a pastor for the people. If you needed a pastor, there was Hal. Hal had a way of encouraging people. And I used to say that Hal could encourage you to do things that you didn't realize you could do. He was an absolute jewel and one of the nicest pastors you've met, one of the most professional you've met. But above all, a man who really believed in what he ministered.
Jesus, if you please, daily walking close to thee, let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Oh yeah.
In addition to his pastoral responsibilities, he became involved in many community projects. He served as president of the Pasadena Wise Men, president of the Pasadena Exchange Club, committee chairman of the Pasadena Rotary, and vice president of the Pasadena Ecumenical Council. On the national level, Dr. Lane has also served as a member of the Board of International Ministries, ABC USA, and program chairman for the 1987 Biennial Convention of ABC USA. After serving for 17 years as senior pastor at Pasadena First Baptist Church, Hal retired from full-time pastorate. But the heart of a crusader for Christ can never stop in missionary outreach to the needy world. Now, as secretary to the Medical Research Foundation of the University of California in San Francisco, Dr. Lane is able to lend his God-given talent to a research program which will benefit millions of people. By the invitation of Dr. Cito, Hal joined the board of ECF International and is now serving as its chairman. As a mission strategist, Dr. Lane provides wisdom and support to Dr. Cito in all outreach programs in the ECF mission fields. As chairman of the ECF International Council, Dr. Lane gave strong support to the ECF Global Outreach Ministries. When the China Bible Exhibition came to the United States in early summer of 2006, ECF was part of the hosting committee in Los Angeles with great support from Dr. Robert Schuller, Michael Chang, and many Christian leaders. When the exhibition moved to Atlanta, Georgia, Dr. Lane was invited to attend the opening ceremony where Jimmy Carter, former President of the United States, officiated the ribbon cutting. Over the years, Hal has traveled to more than 126 countries and has touched thousands, maybe even millions of people through his radio, TV, and preaching ministries. As a crusader for Christ, he certainly has enjoyed and continues to enjoy a full-spectrum life in the love of God.
One of the interesting things to me that God has allowed me to do is to travel. Dee and I have visited about 126 different countries now, and I found that most exciting. Early on, I used to lead tours, led many tours all around the world to all of the continents, but in each of those opportunities, there was education. Learned a lot from meeting people in different places.
Many years ago, when Nixon sat down with Mao and signed the opening, it wasn't more than 4 weeks later that my father was flying into Beijing with a group to welcome the government. Years later, when Anwar Sadat signed the peace accords with Menachem Begin, the ink wasn't even dry. My father was flying into Egypt, traveling from Egypt to Jordan, and crossing a Jordanian-Israeli border. He's done many things that have brought him into questionable circumstances. The coup in the USSR, tanks rolling through St. Petersburg, and he's calling me from a hotel in St. Petersburg. His many travels, he's done remarkable things for many people and continues to do so, and he does it out of love. And for this, I'm proud of my dad.
Harold Lane has friends all over the world. His friendship, leadership, and love affects many individuals and families in many countries.
He was here for a whole year. They stayed at our home. We happened to be have that week off. I don't remember what we were doing, but we were gone, and so we turned the house over to them, and so they took over on the house, and they stayed in our house and took care of it, and we got really very well acquainted with them, and ever since that time we've been wonderful friends.
We've been so fortunate and privileged to spend some 40 years of traveling and just being friends in each other's home over these period of years. And we think that's unusual in that not many couples can just repeatedly travel together all over the world and be congenial enough and respectful enough of each other. And I think we stay positive ourselves, and so the four of us, none of us of the four of us are negative, and we're all more positive people, We laugh at the things that go wrong. Anytime that you travel, things are going to go wrong, And, but that's become sometime the highlight and the things that we recall because we laugh about how bad it went wrong, And so we all have that ability to do that.
In his retirement, Dr. Lane enjoys his chaplaincy at the Royal Oak Manor.
By March of 2001, he became our established chaplain, and he has just endeared himself to every single person here. Never forgets a name once he's introduced, and people have been very impressed with what he's been able to do.
Dr. Ted Engstrom, President Emeritus of World Vision and former President of Azusa Pacific University, has high praise for Harold Lane.
I've been very pleased that Dr. Harold Lane has been our chaplain, and he agreed to come to be with us 5 years ago. That was a marvelous choice. The whole campus has been energized spiritually because of his ministry during the years that he's been with us. He's very relational, and our folks here on this campus at Royal Oaks Manor love Dr. Lane. Interestingly, he knows everybody. He has all their names memorized. He calls them by their name as he greets them, and we are greatly benefited spiritually by his ministry with us as our chaplain.
Throughout his life, Dr. Lane kept a high vision, a clear goal, and a practical action for his ministry, his family, and his service. He even applied such a philosophy in playing golf. As Pastor Emeritus at First Baptist Church, Pasadena, Dr. Lane is often invited by Pastor Steve Hasper to return as a guest preacher, conduct special meetings, and officiate events including child dedications, weddings, and commissioning services for the mission field. Just as Dr. Lane's ministry has impacted countless people with the good news, he now commissions others to be crusaders for Christ.
Our Father, we ask then your blessing, your commission, as we hear your mission to be fulfilled and your commission to go. And we dedicate these four in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord. Amen. My life has been a happy life, and it's not over yet, I want to say that, but you can kind of see how it rounds into place, beginning with an infant dedication, serving communion, baptism, moving on to the commissioning of young people to go into the foreign field. To me, that's an extension of ministry. You can't go always by yourself, but you can train others, and they can go and do the job and multiply your ministries. And so my life's been happy in the multiplication that has been within it in training and teaching and preaching the love of God. I have no regrets in the calling that I've received, and I'm delighted to share with so many others who are taking these same steps. And as long as I'm able, I'm going to continue to serve the Lord with a positive attitude.